Hi, this is Jeff with Octave Music, and I'm pleased to have with me today Steve Allen from Legend Musical Instruments. They make anything from brass mouthpieces to a really new inventive tool called the band tool. And Steve, why don't you describe how this tool works and describe it?
Thanks, Jeff. Well, I just want to preface this tool with, or this explanation with the fact that we developed this tool as a emergency band instrument repair tool to be used by band directors or an adult. So I'll go through each one of the tools and just let you know what each one of them do, and then Jeff may ask me a question or two when we get towards the end. So here is the band tool. It's a band director multi-plier tool, like a utility tool. I kind of like to think of it as a Leatherman on steroids, because it's very heavy, it's solid stainless steel, won't rust, and it's guaranteed for life. So I'll start with the tools that are on it, and the most obvious tool on most multi-tools is a plier. So I'll open it up and show you the plier. This is the plier. It's spring-loaded, and it's built in such a way that you can't pinch your hand or your finger or any of the meat of your hand in this plier, but yet you can get a good solid grip on it, and you can get a grip on whatever you're working with. On the inside of the plier is a smooth jaw right in the top part of the plier, and we made that smooth so that you can adjust or bend a key as necessary without marring the key. If a student comes up with an instrument where the water key is bent and now I can't use my water key, or it doesn't securely take care of the water valve or the spit valve there, and they've developed a leak, you want to be able to just move that right back into shape, and you can do that without marring the finish one bit. You can move any key on any instrument that you need to move within a reasonable distance. Obviously, you want to be careful not to break the key off. But that is a smooth key bending plier on the end of the plier. You have a jaw here on the plier, and that's for any kind of nut or a bolt that you might need to tighten. It will just fit right on there and get you get that done rather quickly. Then right in here on this part of the plier, you actually have a wire cutter. And it's a solid wire cutter. It will cut cable and things like that, but it kind of takes a little more effort to do that. It's really a pressure cut. It doesn't have a dike, real sharp cutter in there, so it uses a pressure cut, and it will cut any kind of solid wire pretty easily. So a string on a guitar, a wire, spring on a saxophone, or something that you might need to put back in, but a solid wire, even to cut a coat hanger if you happen to need a coat hanger. So that's the plier end. It's solid stainless steel. It's very secure, feels very good in your hand, and folds up and unfolds very easily. You know, a lot of those multi-tools, they don't go very easily, but this one happens very easily, very quickly, and is spring-loaded, like I said. Now I'm going to close it up and show you the tools that are on the outside. This tool actually has about 29 uses, and I'm sure once it gets in the hands of most band directors, they're going to probably find a few more. But it was developed with 29 different tools, which include this set of drivers, this bit holder, and this hammer, this rawhide mallet. I'm going to show you why you need the rawhide mallet. The first tool I'm going to show you is a mouthpiece truing tool. This mouthpiece truing tool will actually true any mouthpiece from a French horn all the way up to a tuba. So what you're doing is obviously you're truing the back end on the shank. A kid drops their mouthpiece on the pavement, puts a dent in the end of the shank. Unfortunately, that's going to cause a problem when they go to put it in the instrument. It can often cause the mouthpiece to stick in the instrument, which you don't want to have, and it can also impede the playing, just because it reduces the amount of airflow going through the mouthpiece. So what you want to do is you want to place that mouthpiece on the mouthpiece truing tool. Then you want to use this rawhide mallet, and I hold it kind of like this, and I hold the mouthpiece steady, and then I'll go all the way around the mouthpiece, tapping it to the shape of this piece of metal, this truing tool, so that it will form to the shape of the truing tool. You do push it down there securely till you get a nice tight fit, and then you start just tapping it briefly all the way around to make sure it gets totally round. And take it off, check it. It will happen pretty quickly depending on how bad the dent is in the back end of the mouthpiece. But that locks in a 90-degree angle, so it's really easy to handle. Here's the locking mechanism.
It's just
here.
a little lever on the back.
Just a little lever right here on the back, and it pops up in there, locks that in, then you just undo it to fold it back into place. Okay, and so that's a mouthpiece truing tool. Then we have on that same side 2 other tools, spring tools. A lot of times you'll find you can have a spring tool that's in a toolkit that has a large spring tool on one end and a small spring tool on the other end. And that's essentially what we did here, only we created just 2 different tools. So you have your small spring tool and you have your large spring tool, and smalls for piccolo, flute, clarinet, oboe, any of those smaller instruments. And then your large spring tool is for your bass clarinets, your saxophones, your bassoons, so you can put those springs back on.
And each one of these has a curve right there that fits the spring really nicely.
Right, it does, and it has a push and pull feature. So if it's one of those springs that you need to pull back into place, or that's the only way you can get at it, you can reach in there and pull it. You can push it as well. And a lot of times when you're doing that, this is a little beefier than some of the spring tools that are out there. You have to put it in sideways and then come back at it to pull it around. Because so you can't just put it in this way, you just have to finesse it in there and pull it back. And then let go of it once you get it on the proper pin that it needs to be on to hold it. So those 2 spring tools, and I found when I was out on the road as a school service rep that I use those tools a lot, and primarily on the lower part of instruments. It was specifically clarinets and flutes. Somebody come up to me and the bottom end of their clarinet there'd be a spring loose, or a spring that needed to be put back on right before they walk on the stage. So I could, you could whip this out and fix that, put it back on, and the kid's golden. Now they're playing, and there's not a problem. So 2 spring tools on that side, plus a mouthpiece truing tool. On the other side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8, 9 tools on the other side. So the first tool I'm going to show you is a knife blade. Just a typical knife blade, like any other knife blade. It's about 2.5, 3 inches long, very sharp, great for cutting cork, or loose threads on clothing, or a piece of rope if you need to cut a piece of rope, piece of twine, and that is pretty secure here. It's not a locking blade, but it is spring loaded here, so it's held in place by a pretty heavy duty spring. Very sharp. We do have another model. This is the BT1 model. This is the first model we designed. We have another model in case you have a difficulty or you have a school system that doesn't allow knives. They have a strict ruling about knives in school, and regardless of who has it, whether it's a band director or anybody. So we've developed a tool that actually has a scissor function on it in place of the knife, and that's called our BT2. And the BT2 scissor is very sharp as well. We made sure those were sharp blades so that they would cut paper. You need pretty sharp blades to cut paper or corks or some things like that you need to cut, or even a piece of thread. But they'll also cut a rope if you slide it across the blade like you would a knife. So I just wanted to let you know that on the BT2 you can still cut some rope. You can cut a lot of things with it. You just have to be a little bit creative how you do it, because it's set up like a scissor rather than a knife blade. So that's the knife blade. The next tool I'm going to show you is a jeweler's screwdriver. We have a jeweler's screwdriver that comes out of its holder. This is just a nifty little holder to kind of keep it in place, but it's a dual-bladed screwdriver. On one end you have a large jeweler's screwdriver, and that's for adjusting large screws on the tenor saxes, alto saxes, bari saxes, bass clarinets, adjusting screws, pivot screws, but it will handle all those screws pretty much. Then on the other end you have a small one, and that one is for flutes, piccolos, clarinets, for their adjustment screws and for their post screws, their pivot screws. And that's very handy. And that's what I used to carry, basically these 2 sizes as a school service rep, and that's what I use most of the time. So the whole reason behind this tool was when emergencies, I could fix things pretty quickly if I had just these tools. Rather than carrying around a big toolbox and having to dig through it, trying to get a hold of something that would fit on there. So, and if one of these doesn't work, then a lot of times, there's nothing you can do to help that kid play at that moment. So anyway, the next tool that we have on here is a drum key. I will say this too, all these tools on this end actually lock in a 90-degree and 180-degree angle. This is really good at 90 degrees because it's a nice solid stainless steel drum tool. It's nice and heavy, good and solid, and you can put that on the drum and just crank on it like that, and it is very effective. And you'll never lose that drum key, which a lot of band directors say, that's great, I got a key that I'm not going to lose. Then on this same side we have a driver, and you have a driver socket. It's magnetized so it won't fall off. That's one of my requirements, and one of the things that working on the car, you hate to have something that falls out when you're trying to work on something. So both this and the bit holder are magnetized, so the driver will not fall out of there.
And those are included in the kit, right?
And these are included in the kit. That you get 12 driver bits in this kit, and they're 1/4 inch too. So any 1/4 inch bit you can buy, Torx, Star, Allen wrench, any of those you can buy, you can use on this. So rather than give you another set and raise the cost of this product another 20 bucks, I figured you could take what you wanted to with you if you needed those specific things, because you probably have them and you can take them out of your kit and put them in here, and then you've got a driver that will work and is suitable for any 1/4 inch bit. Because I know some drum manufacturers on some of their carriers have different kinds of fasteners, and you may have to do that in order to deal with some of those carriers and tighten those up. But we couldn't put everything in here, otherwise it'd be so expensive you wouldn't want to take it home with you, and we want you to take it home and use it. So that's the driver bit. Then the next tool is one of the most interesting tools, and it doesn't look very interesting to most people, but I get more comments on this than any of the other tools on this product. This is basically a file. It started out as a file, and then I said, well, I only want one side to be a file, so the other side's going to be flat. So it's going to act as a pad leveling tool, or a pad slick, or even a pad iron. If you heat this up a little bit, you can actually iron a pad.
And this side's nice and smooth.
And this side's very, very, very smooth. It's solid stainless steel, so it's flat as it can possibly be. So it's very smooth. And then you have a carbide file on the other side, and you can file a cork down, you can file a piece of metal down. It doesn't really matter. It does any kind of product. And then on the end, we actually had a slot cut in here, and that was kind of my idea. I thought, well, why waste a spot on this? Let's put another tool on here. So essentially, if you look real closely, there's a nice slot in the end of that.
And that way.
And there it is. And what you can do with this is it's actually a large spring tool. You can put this through on the bottom stack of an alto sax, a tenor sax, bari sax, and you can work those big old screws that are down there on those keys on that bottom stack. And so those springs just really need to be pushed and gotten after. And this tool, being that it's on the side like this, you can get it in there and work that pretty quickly. So it's a little bit quicker than using one of the spring tools on the lower stack. The upper stack, it's probably not going to be the tool to go to. You'll probably want to go to the spring tool on the upper stack. But on the lower stack of those bigger horns, this would be really effective in pushing those springs back on. And as we all know, one of the things I can tell you is most of the time when I was doing emergency repairs at a contest festival or prior to a concert or marching festival, I was repairing things on the bottom stack, because that's what people hit when they come into the stadium. That's where things get clobbered, because the saxophone's sitting over here, the upper stack's up here, the lower stack's down here, and
a little more vulnerable.
It gets banged a lot. So that's where we're having most of the problems. So that's the reason this came into being, was that I said, well, I got tired of carrying this gigantic case around with all these tools in it. So what you get here is you get this tool, solid stainless steel, guaranteed for life. You get the mallet. You get the drivers, the bit holder. You get a little pouch, which actually will hold the tool itself very nicely. And it will also hold your bits. You stick them in the front, and it will also hold your driver socket. And you just push those down in there and pop that over and stick it on your belt or throw it in your briefcase, and you got the whole thing except the mallet. I kind of recommend taking the mallet with you too, because you find a lot of good uses for that. And I think may not have talked about this, but the mallet can be used for a lot of things. Number one is it's a great mouthpiece puller. In an emergency, if you want to get that mouthpiece out, you can just tap that mouthpiece with this. It's not going to work like a bobcat. It'll take 2 or 3 minutes to do it. But if you work consistently with a mouthpiece, you can get it out. The other thing you can do is that you can use it to work bottom caps and top caps on valves that need to be oiled that won't come off. If something's stuck like that, you can use it to kind of get those loose. It's a good little handy tool to have, and you can probably find a few more uses for it as well.
And that all comes in this kit here.
That all comes in this nice little handy pack with a even had a handle on it for you.
Nice.
And it's a zipper pack, so it all goes right in this little box.
And at Octave Music, we'll have both the BT1 and the BT2 in stock.
Yes, you will.
I'll have links down below here in the description. And check out Legend Instruments to make great student mouthpieces, the band tool, and probably some more products to come in
We've
the
got
future.
some more products on, that we're thinking about, so keep an eye on us.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks,
Steve.
Jeff.